All right, let's see how it plays out when we have Section 1231 lookback rule, which we learned about previously, in the presence of unrecaptured 1250 gains. So the first thing we do is complete the 1231 netting process. Then we apply net 1231 losses from prior years against the 25% unrecaptured 1250 gain first. Then, if there's any excess loss from prior years, you apply that to the 1231 taxed at preferred rates. So I'm going to set this up similarly. So unrecaptured at 25%, and then I'll do my 1231 at preferred rates over here. So it's set up similar to what we've done before. So in 2019, Three Creeks Farms, which is a sole proprietorship, has a net Section 1231 gain of $65,000, $20,000 of which is classified as an unrecaptured 1250 gain. So $20,000 would be here, and $45,000 would be here. That's how we get to the $65,000 gain. In 2016, Three Creeks Farms had a net 1231 loss of $33,000. So what happened was in 2016, they had this loss of $33,000 and it offset their ordinary income, which was good for them because their ordinary income is taxed at a higher rate. What we're saying is now you shouldn't have all of these gains taxed at preferential rates. So the look back rule says when you've had losses in previous 5 years, that's going to cause you to reclassify some of the gains now as ordinary. It's kind of like your last recapture that happens to prevent these gains from being taxed at a preferential rate. So in 2016, we had $33,000 in a 1231 loss. And that's going to require us to reclassify potentially some of these things as ordinary. The rules say we complete the 1231 netting process, so we've done that already. We're applying the 1231 losses against the 1231 at 25% first. So we're going to take the $33,000 in loss and we're going to offset 20 here. And basically what that means is this has to be reclassified as ordinary. You still have a $20,000 gain, but you can't tax it at 25% anymore. It's going to face the ordinary tax rate. Then we're going to have, in step 2, apply any excess loss against the gain that is taxed at preferred rates. So I still have $13,000 in loss. The next step then is to offset 13, and that means 13 has to be now considered ordinary. So I'm going to switch colors for us. What we're left with is $33,000 that's going to face our ordinary tax rates. Nothing is going to face the 25% rate, and we're going to have $32,000 that faces that preferred tax rate that we're going to say is 15%. So I'd have $4,800 owed here. This would be 24%, $79.20. And then the sum of those is the total tax that's owed, $12,720. So we apply, when we're doing the look back rule, the first thing we do is we say, are there any unrecaptured 25% gains? That's what I'm going to apply the loss to first. Then, second, I say if there's any of that loss left, it's going to cause me to reclassify some of the 1231 gain taxed at the normal preferred rate as ordinary. Again, it's a little bit confusing when you see these reductions here, but what's happening is you're just reclassifying them as ordinary. They're not going away. We're just reclassifying them as ordinary. And so lastly, when we're talking about 1231 and the decision process, this is a little chart that will help you kind of think through what's happening. When we have the sale of 1231 property, if it's a loss, it just goes to the 1231 netting process. If it's a gain, we have to ask ourselves, what type of property is it? If it's personal property, it's 1245. If it's real property, it's 1250. But we have different rules for an individual and a corporation. So this is a good way to kind of map it out for you so you can see it visually and see, depending on whether it's a gain or the loss, we're going to treat it differently. And then if it's a gain, depending on the type of property and whether we're an individual or a corporation. I think the best way to see these through is to look at it in this table format. So I would get comfortable thinking about this. We're going to list the asset, whether it's a gain or the loss, and then classify it in one of these three categories. I think that's a really good way to visualize where that gain is going, because you can see the gain here, and then you can see, oh, this one's just going over to ordinary. Or you can see the loss here. I still have a loss. It's just going straight over here to 1231 at the preferred rate.